Okay, you inspire me to come up with my own. Ready? So, this is actually my favorite use case of what I think is very close to happening. This merging of orchestration within this next level of intelligence. So the number one most interesting optimization use case that people use with us is this concept of limits. So let's say you have a very large retail company that may ship or sell jeans out of San Francisco. And this particular customer or company has some sort of a exclusive with a carrier that says, you have to ship 80% of your volume with one of the national carriers, et cetera, right? So the question becomes, well, what's the best 80%, right? And traditionally, that's a very static rule. But if you look at this merging of intelligence with orchestration, you can now do things like stochastically model the future, every single shipment that's happening, to say this is the right one to slot into the 80% versus this is the right one to slot into the 20% that is more of a large multi-carrier shop, right? So the point is that there's not necessarily autonomous AI within that. It certainly is a intelligent decision that the system is making based on optimized models that are viewing at what is reality right now, right, in terms of weather and inventory and all this like stuffs, right? But eventually you can see that as the hook to now that merges into this auto loop of the agents that you guys are talking about, where now you can rebalance inventory, you can look at forward drain, you can have the agents actually do these things based on all these different pieces of intelligence or models of the world that didn't exist prior. So like we're so close to that I find it exciting. But anyways, back to reality. So so Lindsay, so a second round, and then if anybody has any questions, I think we have food coming out, we can get more drinks, etc. So last round here is let's talk about more about process adoption, like kind of broader thing for anybody here that wants to take it home to their respective company. So with Lindsay at Litmus 7, what have you guys seen in terms of the process by which you might go from an idea to actually testing to implementation and so on with AI, obviously?
Yeah, I think so. The most successful programs, GenAI programs that I've seen in the last 4 years or so in the space has been like 5 clear signals. One, you have SVP and C-level sponsorship. Nothing is going to happen and nothing is going to get prioritized without C-level commitment. I've seen this over and over again. So that's kind of like the first thing, is you have to have that C-level commitment. And then, the most successful programs are with you have a center of excellence. So maybe it's a team of product, data science, engineering, maybe it's just engineering a product, whatever it is, but if you can come up with a center of excellence that then defines the third, which is AI governance. You have to have dedicated resources in order to define what is your risk appetite, how do you create governance with your legal teams, your security teams, et cetera, and make that very clear when you go into actual use case development. And so I've seen the most success when you have agile workflows. So number 4 would be like that agile development, creating really time-boxed POCs. And the 5th thing is having clear metrics with those and value propositions with those POCs. Most companies are failing in POC land because they didn't define upfront what the success criteria is to move from a POC to MVP and to production. And so every stage of a use case that we work with and that I've worked on has had very clear buy-in from all stakeholders. So with this trend brain example, it wasn't just that I was working with product designers. I was working with our sustainability team. I was working with data science, engineering. Everyone that touched that particular problem was part of that engagement, and we all aligned on this is what success looks like at a POC, and we moved from POC to MVP with that clear metric in production as well. So those are kind of like the 5 big takeaways, and I do these things with OpenAI and Google as well. So it's not just me making this up. This is something that we've seen across the board with OpenAI and Google as well.
It's not just supply chains. It seems like all productivity stuff is the same format right now.
Yep.
So similarly then with Chris, what is a pattern that you've seen then across your customers of that has worked to help get stuff unstuck, to help get the right kind of scoping up front in place, et cetera?
Yeah. I mean, I think I really loved what Lindsay's answer was, frankly, because I think she hit all of the big points. I mean, definitely senior leadership, sponsorship, well-defined metrics on what is success. A lot of times, I think customers come in and it's like, we want to do something with AI, and then it's like, well, okay, what would you like to do? Well, I don't know. You're supposed to tell me, because you're the vendor. And it's like, well, you should have a business problem, right, that you're trying to solve, ideally. You're not just throwing technology for its own sake. So I think having that clear success metric is really huge. Another one that I will point out is that whatever your problem is, you should have a well-founded system to feed data to the AI to support this problem, because a lot of times AI is very data hungry, right? And it's going to be based on you having the ability to give the model the right structure of data that it can reason over and advise you on. And so, that has been one of the biggest challenges for our customers, is sending clean data. Like we do a lot of predictive ML too. The OG AI, I like that term. I'll use that.
I think I stole it from Lindsay, actually.
Old school AI. I like it.
OG is mine.
I'll use them both. That's great. I got two. But our OG AI every day does 25 billion machine learning predictions. And that's about double what Google does search results for the world every day. And all that data, getting it clean and having it fed into the AI in a reasonable way is no small feat for most customers. And so those are three that I would just call out.
Sweet. All right, Jason, last question, okay?
Yeah.
Better be
Yes,
interesting.
Chris.
So if we are looking at generative AI as the predominant use cases that are happening right now, and we're all kind of agreeing like the truly autonomous agentic stuff is still very hard in our specific atoms-based reality of the world of the supply chain. What do you think, right? Because growth is a bit non-linear. It's a bit clumpy of when innovations really pop here and there. So if you were to advise kind of the most interesting thing for people to take away to keep their ear to the ground on, what do you think is going to be the next big leap or the big requirement to get to agentic AI, to get to more autonomous things happening?
I think, just to draw from Chris a little bit, I think we also see most of the problems we're solving, it has humans at the front and humans at the end verifying, right? And so we don't have a lot of situations right now where we're just letting this stuff kind of run untethered. And I think if you actually go through the build cycle of this problem, right, there's all of this work that's being done internal to Shipium around making sure that we contain the context. There's like security and regulation. There's these RAG models to make sure that it kind of contains, like, it limits the scope of what you're trying to solve to whatever you're trying to solve. And I think every one of these times we go through this iteration, it gets more and more, you're getting the right answer more and more of the time as a result of all this works that's happening, like kind of creating this context layer. And then I think we're also building infrastructure to check on the other side and make sure that what's coming out of these things is the right answer, right? And I think all of this is in service of the fact that it is moving towards this next level, which is going to be autonomy, right? And I think we're going to start with simpler problems, like it might be more like exception management or monitoring, kind of monitoring situations, et cetera. But I think as the confidence level goes up in these things, you're going to start being, the analysis that I've been talking about. There's no reason that this stuff shouldn't be happening all the time in the background, where the AI is starting to kind of look at, can I find things for you as opposed to you telling me to find this, right? And I think it's interesting because you do have the dream of all this is you have millions of analysts that are always working all the time. They don't have weekends. They don't have to do anything else. They can just totally focus on searching this space. And I think as the as we kind of start to trust these models to output the right thing, we're going to be able to automate and move more and more of the stuff over. I think I like the term. I've heard like infinite minds is a term I've liked. I've heard from other folks. I didn't come up with that, but in our space we call it infinite simulations, right? Which is just that there's no reason that something shouldn't be running all the time, looking for trends, looking for areas that you could potentially optimize. And so I think that's where it's going, in my opinion.
So we'll end with this. This is my kind of most exciting part of what Jason was saying. And if you see a beer being thrown by Mac, the CTO, to me, the CMO, you'll know that I have gone completely off base. But so think about it this way. If we agree that supply chains are inherently probabilistic, right? You can never be sure that any decision is ever going to be exactly correct, right? 100 shipments, one might fall off the truck, only 99 get there on time, et cetera. If this is to be true, then you can look at a supply chain as this linear sequence of hundreds or thousands of decisions that you can't necessarily predict are going to happen. They're stochastic in nature. If that is the case, the whole point of an agent is to go from decision to decision that you can't really be sure what's going to happen, which means that you're trying to have the agent get as close as possible to 100% that it'll never get to. So the way in which you get there is by creating some sort of a modeling concept, right, to like simulate that. You understand the objective function of that decision. You understand the math side of it, of all the different constraints of reality, et cetera. And if that's the case, now all of a sudden you have these like infinite simulations happening at every single decision point of that exact moment in time for the AI to decide what to do. That's why we always joke that the supply chain, which is very obviously physical, like atoms-based, might actually be the first instance where the true simulated reality exists, just this constant simulation of the real world. And I'm glad Mac didn't throw a beer at me, so I guess it was reasonably coherent. But that's honestly like the stuff that gets me excited, and we're definitely going to get there at some point, even if 2026 isn't really there. It's more on the GenAI side. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see it. I always use coding as a canary in the coal mine, right? And it's like it's always a little bit further ahead, and you're starting to see now these more autonomous agents running, doing coding tasks in the background. And I think we're always going to be trading a little bit in this world. There's no reason to be bleeding edge, but I think it's clear where it's all going.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. The panel will be here along with Mac the rest of the evening. The food is out now. You're welcome to eat, get some more drinks. I'm going to push kind of all the chairs to the side so we got some space. But thank you for coming. Appreciate it.